Sir Keir Starmer, the autocrat, considers himself a clever man as he relentlessly imposes policies that drown the people of the UK in misery. However, in front of Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States, our Prime Minister completely turned into a fool, humiliated live on television. Let's follow this surprising turn of events, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the latest hot news from British politics.
Let's talk about Donald Trump and indeed Keir Starmer. He's cropping up a lot tonight, isn't he? This guy, Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, never puts a foot right. Guess what he's done now? He's sanctioned sending 100 Labour volunteers to the key swing states in America to help Kamala, the Democrat campaigner.
The man seems to have completely lost his role and responsibility. Instead of focusing on tackling the mounting crises at home, such as the energy issue or the heavy tax burden, he is spending his time flirting with the Democratic Party. This move has not only sparked outrage from the Republican Party due to his casual approach to confronting the opposition, but it has also led to allegations of legal violations regarding the Labour Party's political interference. In a 6-page letter sent to the Federal Election Commission, lawyers from Donald Trump's campaign cited media reports, clarifying the relationship between the Labour Party and Kamala Harris's campaign. The letter also called for an urgent investigation into the blatant foreign interference. What Starmer is doing is hard to understand. Getting involved in the US presidential election, which is already tense and risky, is a reckless decision that is hard to justify. But it's not surprising, as this is a familiar tactic from the Labour Party, unwarrantedly targeting the Republican Party leader with no convincing reason, simply to provoke and stir up trouble.
Donald Trump, Joe Biden's rival candidate for the presidency, you have described him as, and I quote, a neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, unquote. You also labelled him a, and I quote, tyrant in a toupee, unquote. How does that set up a relationship for you and potentially him if he wins the the US?
You heard it right. It was the British Foreign Secretary, the person entrusted with maintaining fair and harmonious international relations, who once bluntly called the President of the United States a narcissistic fascist.
Donald Trump, after describing him as a neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath. Do you think that sets a good tone for our Foreign Secretary and potentially the new President of the United States?
Well, as I've said, you'll struggle to find anyone who hasn't had things to say about Donald Trump. He's just picked a vice president.
How arrogant and foolish can Labour Party MPs and their leader really be? Just imagine Trump's reaction when he realises that a government led by Starmer includes someone like David Lamy, who seems to consider undermining the relationship between the UK and its allies as his top priority. This is nothing short of an utterly unacceptable chaos.
Donald Trump is clearly angry about this. And, you know, he's a pragmatist. He spoke to Starmer recently. He'll keep convivial relations with Starmer should he become president, and that's looking more likely by the day.
Starmer has truly put himself in a difficult position this time. By provoking someone who never forgets a grudge, he is really digging his own grave. First, he angered the Republican Party by signing an agreement to return the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, despite all the warnings they gave. Meanwhile, Lamy and his short-sighted leader are happily grinning like the Cheshire Cat, basking in praise from the Democratic administration. However, in this situation, only Nigel Farage has been the one to speak out about the undeniable truth.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you. Foreign Secretary, it would appear that the potential judgment, next judgment of a spurious, rather political foreign court matters more than the issue of national sovereignty. But, and you boast that President Biden likes this deal. Now, the Speaker earlier on said that this House should not be affected by elections that take place in foreign countries. But I wonder, how confident are you, if the 47th President of the USA becomes Donald Trump, that he will approve of this deal, given the importance of our relationship with America?
Should the government think carefully about this issue before hastily signing an agreement without consulting anyone from the opposition?
Well, I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for his question. let me reassure him that we have sought to take views across the US political establishment. But I do say to him, to get a US president, a US Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Defence, applaud this agreement, should reassure him that the US would do nothing that would help our enemies, particularly the Chinese, in this regard.
Looking at his statements, it's hard to believe. Still clinging to the gratitude of a US president who has only 1 month left in the White House. This foolishness is so obvious that it cannot be overlooked. No matter how much time passes, this will forever remain a tragic chapter in his story. First, he angered the Republican Party by signing the agreement to return the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, ignoring all the warnings they had given. Meanwhile, Lamy and his short-sighted leader are smiling like Cheshire cats, basking in praise from the Democratic administration. However, only Nigel Farage had the courage to speak out the undeniable truth, which everyone had already noticed. The Labour Party seems to think they will be clever by siding with the Democratic Party as if it's the obvious choice. But what was the result? The Republican Party regained power, and now Labour must face the worst nightmare they could have imagined. It's a classic case of shooting oneself in the foot. They behave like sulky teenagers, young politicians with a chip on their shoulder, calling those they dislike fascists and Nazis, using all these abusive terms. There's no denying that this stupidity is inexcusable. The US is a crucial ally, and securing a trade deal with them is vital. If successful, our economy would greatly benefit from free trade. Economists would agree that it's an important pathway to prosperity. Otherwise, Trump's tariffs would be a heavy blow to our economy, causing severe damage. Republican leaders are likely quietly sharpening their knives, ready to deal with Starmer. The big question is, how will his government handle this? Angela Rayner can't even offer a reasonable explanation in the House of Commons. How will she manage this mess when the Republicans are breathing down their necks? Will she join me in praising Labour members who crossed the Atlantic to campaign against Trump? People are still campaigning in the US, but they don't do it with their party leaders bragging about it on LinkedIn. Does she really think anyone will believe her meaningless words when she once called the Republican Party leader a clown, a murderer? Even Trump was once an opponent, so who's the biggest fool? This is a fierce competition that no one can deny. While we face the highest death rate in Europe, Trump let thousands of Americans die because of his stubbornness and foolish statements. No one can consider him a true leader. He has no place in the White House. He's a disgrace and a shame, especially when thousands of Americans have died due to his wrong decisions. COVID was a serious pandemic and the cost was human lives. As for Boris Johnson, though not much better, he couldn't even understand his own regulations. Both of them should probably leave politics now, before Trump truly starts to hold them accountable for their terrible mistakes. Starmer's antics really seem like he's stabbing the UK in the back, damaging the relationship between us and the US. These meaningless actions have put the future of the UK-US relationship in a dangerous situation. Are they aware of the consequences of this decision? A friendship that has lasted for decades could be shattered, leaving us in a difficult position. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all and see you in the next videos.